Hey guys, what's happening? It's Goran here, back on a digital Artcast episode. This one is slightly different because we have a few things to announce and a new formula. But yeah, let's give it a go and see how it gets on. Straight off, this is a new format, kind of different from the ones we usually do, where we would record an interview over something like OBS and then use Discord or Skype. Thanks to the glorious Backwater Bastards, and especially Daniel Matthews, he actually recommended this software that we're using just now called Zencaster, where you can talk online. It records you and your guests, or however many guests you have, and then at the end it exports the files to separate waves or MP3s and sends you those files all separately, so you can also audio master them individually and get a better output. So a different format, so we're kind of playing with it. The intro you heard was a predetermined button that they have where you can just play your intro, then cut it out. It'll be the same with the outro as well. We'll try and do it that way. And experimentation, we're going to see how it goes, but the idea is to kind of play with a different format of recording, which would be more efficient, we think, than using the OBS version we were using previously. And also to talk about some changes coming to the Artcast. Now, we're nearly 2 years old. The Artcast's kind of first couple of episodes came months before my first trip to London to go to Industry Workshops 2016. Where my first interview was also 2 weeks before that event. I interviewed Titus Lunter. And then what we had originally done when we started the podcast is I was hosting it with Colin Cero at the time, and Colin eventually had to leave because his workload was just too immense, and he didn't really have any extra time, even at the weekends or weeknights, because he was working so much. So I just ran the podcast myself for the last year or so, year and a half, and interviewed lots of great people, and it was awesome. But people have been asking for shorter episodes or episodes that don't focus entirely on interviews or maybe on different subject matters. So I was going to try and play with the format, and my idea was to bring back a co-host or someone that I could bounce ideas off of or speak to in between interviews, and who also could also do interviews as well and then contribute to the podcast. So after meeting him for the first time last year, I've been on and off talking to this person, and seeing his content on YouTube and his drive at the moment, it's been really inspiring. And when I approached him about coming onto the podcast to talk, and possibly, help co-host it, he was kind of excited to do so. So at the moment, we're going to try this format and see how him and I get on. Hopefully well. But I'd like to welcome to Digital Artcast Adrian Virlan. Hi, Adrian.
Hey, what's up, Gordon? It's good to see you.
Hey.
Good to see you. Good to be here, man. I'm so
man.
excited.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm assuming I also got your surname correct, because I always fuck up European surnames. So Virlan, is that right?
Yeah, sure, it's good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine. It's it's always interesting when you get people on and they've got names that I'm not used to probably pronouncing, and then you're always like, oh shit, I hope I don't insult them by
No, dude,
saying their name wrong. And
it's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, so Adrian has kindly agreed to come on and talk to me today, and hopefully throughout the future we'll talk to me more. And yeah, he's also going to try and host some talks, some interviews with people that we have coming up on the podcast. A few names mentioned, but at this time we're kind of waiting on people coming back to confirm if they can talk, which is also the thing why myself and Adrian, or while I asked Adrian to come on and talk, was because having to solely rely on interviews was obviously meaning that we were having to wait for people to get back, and if people are busy then it's harder. So there would be large spells in between interviews and in between episodes. So these are kind of mini episodes that we're trying to fill the gap, basically. So we're trying to put content out every maybe 2 to 3 weeks, maybe have one interview a month and then one or two conversations as well. So 2 or 3 episodes a month. If we can do more, we will. But again, between Adrian's schedule and my own, we want to make sure that we're not overloading our senses by trying to take on too much.
It's always good to have like conversations on different subjects, between interviews and so on. So it's cool.
Definitely.
I'm kind of an intern right now.
No, you're teaching me every day, Adrian. Definitely, especially with
Thank you, dude. I appreciate
your
it.
your last video, which you just put up recently, which was I'll put all Adrian's links in the show notes below. But yeah, you just did a video on limits,
Oh yeah,
which
you
was
saw it.
yeah, which was it was awesome to look
Cool.
at actually.
Yeah, it's pretty
Um,
simple. I mean, I it obviously looked way better in my head, but I just didn't have the patience to, render like the image further. So I just kind of focused on the main idea, which was limits and how
yeah,
most people perceive them. And I just want to talk about it a little bit. So I give it a try, and there it is, 4 minute or
yeah,
5 minute video, and that was it. So you saw it. Well, I'm glad. I'm
yeah,
glad to hear
yeah,
this.
yeah. It was awesome, man. It was
It
good.
doesn't have too many
Also,
views.
no, I know, but it's difficult on YouTube, especially with the
Yeah,
Artcast,
I
because we're trying to grow, obviously, but you know that it's not the content that people will tune into YouTube typically for. So,
yeah, you're almost
um,
hitting 1,000 subs, right?
yeah, we're only Jesus, like 20 subscribers away, I think, before we hit a
Well,
thousand.
that's super
So,
cool, man. I mean,
yeah, but
it takes like I said in my video about limits, it takes a while to get that snowball moving, rolling.
oh yeah, 100%. Someone told me it was almost like a I don't know how you describe it, but you know, you'll hit 1,000 subscribers, and it'll maybe take you 2 years to do that. But then within 6 months, you'll hit five, and then within 6 months, you'll hit 10. Like it does snowball. It goes really quickly. I'm hoping that's the case anyway. But yeah,
It sure does.
yeah. I mean, it's difficult as well because I think probably why I want to try a different formula with future interviewees. I want to try and make it so that we're not always going over the standard template of how did you get started in the industry, you know, how did
Mhm.
you do X, Y, and Z, because I think there is so much of that content out there. Obviously, Mathieu Kutiara, Ash, you know, Ash Thorpe, and I'm trying to think of it was like podcast wise, but yeah, there is a lot of that content is already available. So probably we'll obviously talk about this in the future, but looking
Yeah,
towards
those things have good and bad sides, but I I recently figured out like one what's the name of this girl? Like the art side of life?
oh yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I mean, someone in the comments said to her that why is she always asking the same questions to everybody in the podcast? And
yeah,
her answer was that this way her audience can compare, like make a contrast between every single guest she has,
yeah,
because she asks exactly the same questions, so they can know like
yeah,
how did this one start? How did this one start?
yeah, yeah.
And
Because that
that's the thing. But then of course, I mean, this is a personal opinion, okay, but it might be too repetitive, perhaps. I don't know. Sometimes we like things to be more not so staged, like more natural, the flow, like
yeah,
just like a conversation,
yeah,
not
definitely.
always.
Yeah, I found that with um, Match's like art cafes latest episodes, especially the one he just sat down and talked with Shadi, and they just kind of just talked about art in general, like just
Hmm.
the process, how Match's like anime stuff has been made, how he's been finding that kind of stuff, how Shadi's working with one pixel brush.
I didn't see the
Um,
Shaddy's one, but I saw the this guy from Ironclad, um,
oh, Justin,
Justin.
yeah,
Justin
Colby
was
Fields,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still to this day. I feel so shit that I got the chance to interview Justin,
Mhm.
and this is the reason I'm using this software now. But yeah, we had a really good interview. We talked for like an hour and a half. We talked about Batman v Superman for ages.
It's never
Uh,
enough, man. I mean, I met
yeah,
that guy in Croatia last year, but well, I will get there in a moment because we're gonna talk a little bit about events, art events, and
yeah,
so on.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, he's a great dude, and I
yeah,
was having so much fun listening to him and Maciej talking
yeah.
in the
Him and
stream.
uh, him and Spiridon seem to be on the kind of same level,
Hmm.
humor wise and
Yeah,
kind of attitude wise, which is interesting. They seem like
dude,
brothers
there's
separated,
no
but
way I can't laugh when I'm surrounded by them.
oh man, yeah, like Spiridon especially is yeah, just
Yeah.
every event you just you piss yourself laughing at some of the stuff
He just
he
did a
says.
live stream on Facebook now, and I was laughing alone here.
Oh yeah, yeah, he's such a cool dude, and I love how um know that he isn't a serious guy. He obviously does a lot of serious work. Like he just produced Firestarter.
Mm-hmm.
Then in fact, I'll link that below as well because that's a good magazine for people to get their hands on. But yeah, he put in serious work with that magazine, and yeah, outside of that, yeah, he is such a funny dude. It is comical when he's at events. You just can't help it. He has this energy where you want to be around him. You know,
Yeah,
you
man,
want
I don't
to.
know how to explain it, but it's like, yeah, he takes things seriously, of course, but when he jokes, wow, man, brace
Yeah,
yourselves.
I know. It's just an interesting guy because he's had so much experience and he's went one route and then moved to decided to do something else and yeah, he's kind of at points the glue that binds the community together, and it's awesome. But yeah, obviously talking about Spiridon and Firestarter, he's one of the key reasons we're talking about this. But as a kind of test for this episode, I wanted to try and talk to something about the things that we've experienced, and one of them was events. And now I say events, I mean industry specifically events. So things like IFCC, industry workshops, THU. I'm trying to think of Promised Land, and playgrounds. There's a ton. I mean, there is a good few in Europe. Even across in the States, there's multiple. I mean, last
Yeah,
year,
there's a lot of
maybe
them. I,
even
I was checking their magazine. I mean, the online magazine, Firestarter, and
yeah,
I just discovered a new world because there were so many unknown to me, at least,
yeah,
events or just gatherings or meetings. Even those drink and draws, thingies.
yeah,
I I,
yeah. Well,
I just didn't know that they were here in Madrid too.
yeah. I mean, like, and it's the same with THU as well because they do so many. What do you call it? They do so many the meetups where people can get together in different parts of the
Yeah,
world
but
and
I
meet up
mean,
and do.
I thought they were like, unofficial, but they seem to be like a well thought thing. I mean, it's not that one friend tells another one and another one, and then they come together. It's like they have their groups, their websites, or whatever. So it's real. It's a
Yeah,
real thing.
yeah, because I think the most recent one they done was in Tokyo, Japan, and yeah, it looked like a proper, well put together event where people were coming in, and there was kind of what's the word I'm looking for, like merchandise, like there was THU shot glasses and
Ah, right.
swag bags
Yeah,
and stuff, and yeah, so it wasn't just like a random meetup. There was an actual branding thing behind it. So yeah, like it looked
branding.
really awesome.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, the branding. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. So yeah, it looked really interesting. To to be part of those, and then obviously there is. I mean, we have them in the UK, the drinking draws as well, where people make up and sketch. But yeah, these industry events are on another level where people obviously like speakers, other huge artists come and talk, and they do demos, and you get to network with people, and companies come to hire people, and
Definitely.
um, yeah. So I mean, like I was going to say, it's an interesting year for me. I've been to industry workshops the last 2 years. We met at Playgrounds last year,
Which
and
was
then
your
this is going
first
to.
art event?
No, well, the first one would have been industry workshops in London, 2016. That was because it was actually I'd been watching Anna Hollenreich,
Mhm.
who is a concept artist over here in London, and on her stream, she had mentioned she was going. And I was kind of like, oh, industry workshops. And I kind of said to her in the comments, like, oh, what is that? And she says, oh, it's an industry event where people get together and they do demos and talks. And I was like, oh, shit, that sounds amazing. Because at that point, I was just 2016, I was starting to take
Yeah.
my art career seriously. Um, it's weird. I think it's only been 2 years now, but it's crazy. But yeah, so yeah, I basically looked up online. I was like, oh, there's still tickets, so I got a ticket and I went. And that's where I met most of the people now who I've known for years. Like I said, I interviewed Titus 2 weeks before the event, and then I met him there with Suzanne, Helmig as well, and then I met York for the first time. Mike Hill, Ash Thorpe, Daniel, obviously, God, Levi, so many people there that now, obviously, I talk to on a daily basis.
Indeed. I mean, those
Um,
are the kind of things I was mostly used to see online. These
yeah,
guys and these kind of superstars, of
yeah,
concept art. And then when I went there, I mean, the IFCC in Croatia was my first art event, first
right,
concept art focused event ever. So I was like, oh my god, I'm really here. I really this is happening. And then of
Yeah,
course you start seeing like those kind of heroes, those idols you have, those favorite artists you have. They're there and they're giving you feedback while they're drinking beer with you and watching your looking at your portfolio and your sketchbooks and telling you things about themselves and how they got there and so on, and pushing you further. And oh
yeah,
man, it was overwhelming, but on a good way. It was like in a good way. It was like when I got home, I was still processing everything
yeah.
because it was
No, I
so
mean it's
much. I met so many people,
yeah.
so many names. I felt bad because I was forgetting, and I was like at the
No,
moment,
I was the same, man. Like I had no
like,
idea.
I'm
Like
sorry.
obviously,
What was your name? I just told
not
you. Like, oh, I'm sorry.
totally. Yeah, because when I first went to industry workshops, and this was my first ever event, remember, so I knew Anna because I'd watched her stream, and I knew Titus and Suzanne through Facebook and art they had done. I'd known Suzanne, known Suzanne, but I'd known of Suzanne for years because a concept artist at the time, Florian de Gesencourt, he turned me on to Suzanne because she was doing a whole thing of how to become a concept artist. So I knew certain faces, and especially because I met Titus in the line, I kind of stuck close to him because I was like, I don't know many people here. This is my first event. I'm kind of nervous. And then he was standing talking to York Verwilbergen was on my left, and then Mike Hill was right in front of him talking. I didn't know who York was. I didn't know who Mike, especially Mike Hill, and Mike is. I'm going to ask this right enough, and this will be funny. But do you know who Mike Hill is?
Nah, no, not now.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I again, that's fine. But like Mike at the time, I never knew was like a huge deal. Like he had worked on like so many properties. I think at the time he was working on Call of Duty, and he done a talk. Funny enough, he done a talk on Terminator 2 at that event, and it was more about the storytelling aspect of it and how the hero's journey works. And he was breaking down each scene in Terminator, and how Cameron had basically turned each scene into like a kind of almost one for one of like there's so much foreshadowing, so much storytelling that you don't see behind the scenes.
Mm,
And it was one of the most. It's on YouTube for free. I'll need to send it to you, but
awesome.
because
I'm gonna watch
they
for
recorded
sure.
it.
Those
Yeah,
talks are really, really interesting. Like I usually like the technical ones because it's the first thing you want to focus yourself on as a
yeah,
myself as a
the
beginner.
technical
I was
skills.
like, oh, I gotta get better. I gotta get better. But I didn't know like what's behind that. So the narrative side of design, I was
Hmm.
missing that part. And that's when these kind of talks you just mentioned come in really handy.
Yeah,
And I
but
missed
that was
that
the
one.
scary thing though, is the fact that like I was standing next to Mike and like I was saying to Titus later, like, oh, who is that? He was like, oh, it's Mike Hill. Like, you need to go see his talk. That'll be the one to see this weekend. And I was like, oh shit, like, but you don't know. And then obviously, Giles Kettling, like I met him as well.
Yes.
I went to see his talk, and that was when he started talking about Ashen Falls, like his IP that he was developing. You know, the
Mhm.
horror story
Yeah, yeah,
thing
yeah.
that the
Sorry.
game.
Yeah.
And again, that was the first dude that saw him, and I was like, holy shit! And I met Nikolai as well, or Nico for the first time, Nikolai Lockerstein, who does the Procreate art, like he does all his stuff on Procreate on the iPad. Um,
Yeah, I saw
and
so many people using iPads there.
oh yeah,
I was
but
like,
like
I gotta get one right now.
he's been working on that iPad doing art professionally for the last 5 years, and yeah, that was my first year seeing him as well. But again, it was so many people, and I was like, who are these people? Like I've never seen them before, and
Yeah.
I didn't even know who Ash Thorpe was until I got there. You know what I mean? Like, and who is Aaron Beck as well? Yeah, like just all these people that were huge superstars, and I was like, who are these people? So like,
Same
it's
here, man. I mean, I got there and
yeah,
I started meeting accidentally like
yeah,
big people, and I was
yeah,
like, my name is Adrian. What's your name? Like, and I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. Then I go home
yeah.
and I find out they're fucking huge.
Yeah. Well, you were saying this about fucking Max Berman. Like you met him at the
Exactly.
event,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you were like,
I
"Oh my
had this
god, he's like a
exact
superstar."
feeling. I mean, I had him in mind right now when I was telling you this. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was just sitting there next to him, having breakfast with some friends I already knew, and I didn't know him. So I was like, I'm Adrian. And he said, hey, I'm Max. How are you? How are you doing? And we started like talking and like, what do you do? I do matte painting. What do you do? I do concept art for games. And then he goes in and like, yeah, I've been working for 10 years now. And I'm like, oh shit. Wow.
Oh wow, yeah. I think I'm working for about 10 fucking
Yeah.
minutes, like. Yeah, but it's interesting how long these processes take, and I think that's interesting at the events is that you learn this because I remember the other day I was beating myself up about how much progress I've made in the last 2 years, and
Mhm.
then someone was like, "Dude, you've been doing it properly for 2 years. Like, it's taken me like 15 years to get to this point." And another person was like, "Yeah, it's taken me like 6 years so far, and I'm just breaking in." Um, yeah, it does take, and that's the good thing I think about these events is you get a reality check because the guys who go up in these stages, you think they're superstars, but they're just ordinary people, and that was what struck me about the events is the fact that everybody was so friendly, everybody had a minute for
Exactly,
you,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. This
crazy,
is exactly
yeah,
my point where I was going to talk about now. So everybody seems so like really approachable, really friendly, as you said, and you can openly talk to anybody and don't get that feeling like you're bothering someone or whatever. So
yeah,
this is the feeling I got there at IFCC, and I honestly I had the same feeling at playgrounds,
yeah,
and it's insane, man. I mean, yeah, they as you were saying before that they probably had to climb this mountain first, so they
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
have like this path already carved, you know.
yep,
So it's naturally easier for some of us who are just starting now because it's already done. Like a lot of the stuff, like this is what Shaddy usually talks about, you know. The Have you
yep.
seen that video? Like I think he's got it on his Gumroad or something.
The law of
That
increasing
one, that
increasing
yeah, but
awesomeness,
there's a trailer
yeah,
I think on YouTube, and it's insane, man. I
yeah,
like that kind of philosophy a lot because it answers so many questions I had. You know, like how the hell do I get there? How are those guys so good?
yeah. That's why you have people in their mid
Hmm.
20s and like massive AAA studios because the information that is shared now is so readily available. You could almost sit on YouTube for free and learn
Indeed,
things
yeah.
enough to get a job. Like it's crazy how much information is out there.
And that's when look, I met Anthony Jones for the first time in Barcelona last well a couple months ago in
Yeah, non-stop
Nonstop,
Brian's
yeah.
event. Yeah,
And in the talk he gave, he mentioned the time and effort thing, you know? Like everything takes time and effort. If you want to learn something, you got to invest time and you got to invest like effort. You got to put in the hours and work.
yeah,
And it's really that simple actually, but it's
yeah,
also the hardest thing, you know, because it's very easy to do something instantly. But
yeah,
what about holding that for maybe years till you get there?
yeah,
That's the hardest part.
yeah. It's, I mean, it is just the fact of these events give you a reality check of that you're not going to get a job this year.
Reality
Cool,
check. That's a good keyword.
yeah,
That's such
but
a
then
good
come back
one.
next year and I mean, like, I know people who were going to THU for the first year and they were sitting down with the guys with ILM and the companies that were there and they were saying, yeah, your stuff's good, but you could do X, Y, and Z that would make you more employable. Go away, do that, and come back. And then they would come back 12 months later, show them the portfolio, and be like, "Great, do you want to start next week?"
Wow.
That's that's sometimes as not as easy as it can be, but the process is streamlined in a way that um, it's not impossible to get a job in this industry. It just takes determination. And I think when you go to these events, what it does is gives you the reality check of, right, how good is my work compared to people who are working already. Look at the guys who are standing on stage doing demos. How close to my own work is their work? Like, can I match them up? I listened to Jake Parker's podcast actually, 3 Point Perspective, and he had a really good talk about an exercise he used to do where he used to get a square and it was separated into 9 separate little squares.
Yeah,
And what you would do is you would put your artwork in the middle, and round about your artwork, you would put artwork of people that inspire you or people you want to be like. And then you constantly measure like your image in the middle, right? How close is it to the work that's surrounding it? And that would be a good kind of gauge for, am I employable? Am I able to get work from what I'm looking at?
sure. That was my question. Like in many of the art events I've been to, like, am I employable? What do you think? Look at my portfolio. Am I employable? Like, well,
Yeah,
depends, dude. What do you want to do?
yeah,
And you know,
and yeah,
those keywords are are really good because what you said before about the reality check and so on. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that video from Jake Parker about the art of finishing things. Have you seen it?
Finish not perfect. Yeah.
That one, finished not perfect. That video
Yeah.
was really enlightening to me because I was always like just catching and never finishing. Like, what's finish? You know, what's a
Yeah.
finished artwork? It depends on you, right? It
Yeah.
could be a sketch, it could be a highly polished image, but um to me they were always unfinished, you know. And I'm like, I'm not going to continue doing this, because if not, I'm going to spend like hours and hours rendering this, and I could do way
Yeah.
more drawings during that time. So I
Yeah.
saw his video and I'm like, man, I'm going to go back to my abandoned projects, and I'm going to finish them
Yeah.
just so I can have them. And
But you talked about this in your ArtStation challenge as well, right?
yeah,
How
yeah,
you
this is
that's why
it
you
was a
took it.
good opportunity to, you know, get past these kind of mistakes I've been making so far.
Yep.
Because I
Yep.
was always like working on mostly, you know, those keyframes felt like more like illustrations than actual concept art. However, I
Yeah.
try to put in so many techniques. I've been only listening and watching, but never tried them on my own. So it was a
Yeah.
good time. It was a good moment to try that out. And what I was going to say before, like when you said the reality check thing, it happened to me. Like, it's funny because I have two sides for this, you know. So this was the first time I was on an art event, and I met, you know, Marko Djurdjevic from Six More Vodka.
Yes.
Well, he was there, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna book like a portfolio review session with him. And
Mhm.
he was the first one I think I talked to, like, from all
Yeah.
the, you know. And what he said, he was not alone, by the way. He was with his, I think, two of his friends from the same company.
Right. Okay.
And
Uh
what he said was that, um, so what do you want to do?
huh.
I like environments. And he's like, then why do you have characters?
Oh
Well, because
yeah.
I
Yeah.
I made them, and I'm proud of them, and I want to show them. Yeah, but I'm not
Yeah.
gonna hire you to make the environments then, you know. So
Yeah.
what he
Yeah.
said right after really dragged me down for the rest of the day, because I was so weak, you know. I was like really
Oh yeah.
perceptive, really. So he said, listen, Adrian, you should draw more and paint less. All right. And
All right.
I
Yeah.
spent like the previous 3 months, 4 months only sketching, filling my sketchbook with line drawing. And he goes in
All
and
right.
says that he never knew, right? I didn't tell him,
Yeah.
but that felt like, made me feel like shit for a few hours. I was like, I just want
Yeah.
to go home. Oh my God. And then I realized, you know, he's right. I should push further and harder. I should work more. And I suddenly came back up and I started talking to people again, like asking for more questions, more feedback. Like, do you think I should draw more? Do you think that they're like, yeah, you should draw more, of course. There's never enough of that.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
then on this last event I went to, Barcelona nonstop, it was kind of a different feeling because I was there surrounded by high level professional artists. And I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, um, what can you tell me? What advice can you give me on my current work? Like, look, this is what I do. This is what I've done so
Yeah.
far. How can I
Mhm.
improve this?
Yeah.
And they were like, Anthony Jones, for instance, I will always remember
God yeah.
this. He was like making this face, like saying yes and looking at my work.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, man, your work is good, man. What do you need? I'm like, yeah, how would you improve this? And he's like, well, it's pretty good, man. I mean, what do you want? Specific feedback or something? Yeah, well, the head of this character could be tilted this way, not the other way, and so on. Like, really
Yeah.
tiny things. And
Mm.
then he said something that really stayed with me for the rest of the trip, because
Uh,
he said, so you're working? And I'm like, I'm not working right now, but I've been working in a in an indie studio for 2.5 years, and now I've been like 1 year focusing on only getting better and improving my skills and so on. And he's like, well, then maybe the only reason you're not working yet is because you're lacking connections, you're lacking contacts. And I'm like looking at him, staring at him in the eyes, and I'm like, that's why I'm here. And
Yeah.
and he says, well, then you're doing great, keep going.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
happened, man. I mean, I got some gigs from that event, and I was like feeling so realized, so good, that
Yeah.
these events, I mean, are they are if you can, if you have money and you don't know where to spend it, spend it on a trip like
Yeah.
this, go to art
Oh,
events.
oh
It's
fuck
the
yeah.
best investment
Yeah.
you can do.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's the interest of I have the
Yeah.
opposite effect now in my career
Of
where
course, there are art
I have
classes,
nothing.
courses online, and all that, and then there's art events. They're a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely. The problem I have now with going to, because I've been to so many events in the last couple of years, is the problem I have is the opposite now, where especially with the Artcast is that I have so many contacts, but I lack the talent or I lack the skill set, the technical skill set to land work. So like we're kind of on opposite end of the scales because obviously you have the talent and technical skills, but then the networking side is a
I
bit
guess it depends
less
on
less to be
yeah,
focused
what
on.
do you invest your time on? And
Yeah,
it's
totally.
all
Yeah,
about balance, I guess.
yeah.
I don't think I'm quite there, and I'll never be for myself. Obviously, you always want more, but
No, of course. Yeah, yeah,
I think I've improved a lot, and I didn't feel this way when I went to Barcelona. And when I was there,
yeah.
and everybody was telling me the same shit. So I'm sorry for that. The same stuff, you know.
Oh wait. Oh fuck! It was too late.
Great timing.
Oh fuck! And then never mind. Anyway, so fuck. Okay, no matter. Fucking anyway. So
Great timing, Gordon.
okay.
So when I was there, everybody was telling me the same, and I
Yeah,
started to. I know it's wrong to say this, but I started to feel validated somehow. And what I'm
yeah,
saying is it's wrong. Well, because from the first moment you're starting to do like whatever art, you're
yeah,
already part of a community, right? So
yeah,
you're
yeah,
already validated. And I was there, and I'm like, okay, so I'm good then. They're like, yeah, man, you could be working right now. We're waiting for it. I'm like, oh
yeah,
god damn. Okay, guys,
yeah,
thank you. So
yeah,
this is the stuff these kind of art events do to you, you know. That's why I
yeah,
value them so much. I really appreciate those kind of things, and I'm really glad I went, like, because I was like a little bit afraid, you know. To It was actually the first time I went alone on a trip because I had nobody else to come with me, not even friends who wanted to visit Croatia or whatsoever. I didn't ask for it anyway.
yeah,
And I went there
yeah,
and I'm like, oh my god, I don't know anybody. Well, I still, yeah, I do know some people from Facebook and so on, and I'm about
yeah,
to meet them in person. And I remember Jort, he
yeah.
told me that, dude, I'm looking forward to see you there and so on. And I'm like, this guy is telling me this. Are you holy shit. All right, now I feel really validated. So it makes you
Yeah,
feel like you're part of it, you know. And it's true what they say with IFCC. I think their slogan or their line was something like, here's the, I mean, IFCC is the place where all voices are heard, or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but
right.
something like this, you know. And I
Yeah,
truly
yeah,
felt that way. I was like, holy shit, isn't it amazing to be here and talk to your favorite artists, meet new people while you drink beer and whatever outside, and have
yeah,
some interesting talks. It was insane. And I I met them again in the next one, and then in the next one, old friends, new friends.
yeah.
It's always
Yep,
cool, man.
yep. Yeah, no, it was interesting even last year in the short of 2017, and as soon as I walked up to York, he was like, "Hey," and because he's talking to some random people, and it was kind of the start of the event. People were just catching up, and I just wanted to walk up and say, "Hey, York," but like as soon as I didn't even get a chance, he just grabbed me and he was like hugging me. I was like, "Hey, this guy right here, watch him, man. He'll want to get an
Yeah,
interview
man,
with you."
he's
And I was
really
like, "Yeah, you're."
pushing everybody forward. Like,
Oh yeah, 100%. Like even just seeing people like Cornelius, like who just I hadn't seen in a year, and he was like, "Oh man," he run up and he hugged me. I was like, "Oh shit!" Like it's for a lot of people. I know people who go to these events who don't even go for the talks. They literally just go to catch up with
yeah,
people.
me too.
Yeah,
I, I,
which is
I,
crazy. So, but
I
yeah,
went with. Do you remember Kevin, my friend who was with me? He had a
uh,
ponytail.
yeah, yeah. The editor
Yeah.
Kevin, yeah. He does titles now
Mhm.
for the show. Like he does the lower third stuff and that
Yeah,
and intros.
exactly. He's
So
now creating something new. Like, I think he's making a website for himself or something like that, like an online.
yeah, he was sending me his reel last night to have a look
Exactly.
over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I
so
mean. It's so cool,
yeah,
man. Well,
yeah,
he was
yeah,
like, "I'm going to go with you, Adrian," and I'm like,
yeah.
"Sure, dude, you should come. I mean, don't get intimidated by the fact that it's a concept art event, you know? Even though you don't
Oh
do
yeah, yeah,
concept, you
totally.
could be an animator and go there. You could be a 3D modeler, whatever. You go there and you're creative.
Yeah,
You go there and you
yep,
get back home completely fulfilled, and you know your batteries filled up again.
yep.
It's a really good and amazing experience, and I I can't recommend it enough. Any other event.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, for this year, you say you're going to industry workshops, right?
Industry workshops and my first year at THU,
First year.
which will be yeah. I've never been to
I don't
Trojan
know
Horse.
why I thought you already been there. I was going to ask you
No,
because
yeah,
I've been
yeah. No,
asking some
I've
people
never.
about that event, THU. So I
Right.
had like two versions of it. One of
Okay.
them said that it's I mean, comparing it to IFCC, it's much more different event because it's much more serious. It's highly business oriented or something like that. It's like more about
Right.
networking and so on. And
Mhm.
then they said it's not the same, man, because you go like if you don't have a group already, you can't get
Mhm.
into a new one that easily. Like, look at us right now. We were just standing, you know, drinking beer there in Zagreb,
Yeah.
and they're like, look at us. We just here standing by and talking and so on. And if somebody else comes right now and says hi,
Mhm.
we're gonna open up and welcome him, right?
Yeah.
Then that doesn't happen there. And I'm like, what? Why not? And they're like,
Wow.
no, people are really close. Like they have their own groups, and it's really hard to, you know, meet new people or something like that. And then I had the other side of this, which was the completely opposite opinion.
Oh
Because
shit.
I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah. I mean, but this is
yeah, I've been
yeah.
told that it's a very hard place to get in, and so no, 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 no. Who told you that? That's
Yeah.
completely bullshit, dude. It's not true.
I think it's yeah. So 100%. This is the thing that this is the reason I'm going to teach you, and I want to go to teach you specifically because there is people who will sit and tell me
Yeah, it's always good. It's
like
always better to
multiple
see it by
things.
yourself.
Oh, 100%. Because people would give me the two sides of the coin, right? Either it was too expensive, there wasn't enough time with lecturers, and there wasn't enough opportunity to meet other people, or it was the best event in the world, and why haven't you been the last 3 years? Like, so I was basically trying to go to say to myself, right, am I going to enjoy it, am I not? And then take my own opinion and then come back. Because, yeah, I mean, there's positive and negatives to every event,
Of
right?
course, like
Nothing is
everything.
perfect. Everybody's human. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would definitely say that one of the best events I've been to in the last 3 years has definitely been industry workshops. I know for a fact, having been there now in my third year this year, but Daniel and his team always get kind of passed with flying colours. People always talk really highly of him and his team, and Levi and that, and the people who founded the event and how well it's run. And I know specifically this year because it's actually the 5th year anniversary. They're going to be expanding, so there's now tech talks on stuff like programming, 3D
Oh,
modeling, as well as 2D stuff. So yeah, that's it's probably one of the more put together events that I've seen in the stratosphere of the stuff that's already going on. THU, yeah, again, I've heard the love hate relationship. I've heard people who say that no, I didn't enjoy it. It was too big. There was too many people or whatever. Or people are like, yeah, it's like one of the best
Yeah,
events in the world. So
because it's
I
the
think the best
biggest
events
one,
you
right?
get
And
with
it's the like
yeah,
the most expensive one too.
yeah. Well, I mean, like expensive. It runs for 6 nights. So I mean, like you've got to weigh up 13-hour days for
Mhm.
6 days. How much to
Yeah,
you
of
is that
course, because
worth?
it's
Do you know what I
longer.
mean?
It takes
Yeah,
longer
I mean,
to. I mean, it's not a 4 day
yeah,
or 3 day event. It's a
it's a
week,
week.
so
It's
that's
nearly, it's
something not
nearly,
everybody takes
yeah,
into account when saying it's too expensive
yeah.
or whatever.
I would definitely say that THU is one you need to build towards. Like, start small. Go to IFCC, go to industry workshops, and find your feet there. Find contacts, find people that you can talk to, and then move up. Because yeah, the smaller events always are more comfortable. And I mean, I've never been to IFCC, but would you say that's the case with IFCC? Did you find it was quite like a close knit community?
Of course,
Yeah. Did you? I mean, obviously, because there's only I don't know, like 1,000 people go to
I
that or
mean,
something like that. Or
there were 3 places, I think. They were not
okay,
all of them in the same spot. I mean, they were all spread across the
right,
city, but they
right.
were pretty close. Like, I don't know, 5 minutes walking from each other,
Okay, yeah,
something
yeah,
like that. And of course, there's a main one, and then the other ones are there's a smaller one and a smaller one, but they're all cool. I mean,
right,
the one in which
right.
I listened to Max Berman and Justin Fields was the smallest one and the hottest one too, because it
Oh
was
God, yeah.
June.
That's in Croatia in the
Yeah,
summer,
it
so yeah,
was
yeah.
insane. It was hell, but it was worth it. And what I was going to say before about the when I said it's expensive, that's a very relative answer, because what's expensive. I mean, if I ask you right now for 700 euros, of course that's a lot of money. But if I say give me
Yeah,
700 now and you'll get like thousands back in time, that's
yeah.
the story I heard from, for instance, Pablo Carpio. You know him?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, I know Pablo. He was
Yeah,
at the
exactly.
Playgrounds
That
event.
that that talk was amazing when he said,
Yeah,
"Well, I just spent my money wisely, I guess. I had this
yeah,
much, and I said, okay, how can I spend this? I'm just gonna get some equipment, go to this event, spend it on a trip, and it's all about doing like the right steps. But you obviously don't know what are the right steps. You just do what you feel right, you know. So
yeah. You can find so much research
yeah,
online as well. Like if you wanted to know about these events, a lot of them have websites. A lot of them have videos up on YouTube already that you can look at before you go. So, and then obviously if you add one or two people from the events, then yeah, you can chat away about what you feel the event's like. And yeah, there's no obligation to go, but it's like the old Mastercard
yeah,
adverts they used
exactly.
to have years ago, where the price of this is this much, the price of this, but then getting the emotional result is priceless. So it's the same. Like you spend a lot of money going to these events. Don't get me wrong; it's not
Yeah,
cheap, but
it's
you
like
will get
some books
networking. You
also,
oh yeah,
you had Scott Robertson, right, on your channel.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Scott, we interviewed him last
well,
year. Yeah,
I have two of his books, and one of them is How to Draw, and the other is How to Render. And
yeah,
those books are
yeah,
technically not cheap, But when you tell somebody like I paid $90 for this book, they go crazy. They go like,
yeah.
"Really? For a book?"
Oh
And you're like,
yeah,
"Yeah, but you
yeah.
you have no idea how much
Scott
it
Robertson
pays
wrote it.
back in time, man. There's a lot
Yeah.
of time and knowledge contained in this book. Well, it goes the same,
Yes.
I think, for these events. They might be expensive. Like
Yep.
for instance, IFCC was not that cheap either. It was like 400, around
Mhm.
400, and you could get it with a discount for Black Friday, I think, or something like that, because I bought it back
All
in,
right.
like, I don't know, 7 months before. So
Okay.
but what they do to you is priceless. I mean, it's what you get from them
Yeah.
is amazing, man. I
Yeah.
I would 100% go back and still pay what they asked for and go back and back and back if I had the money.
Yeah.
So I'm
And THU are the same now as well, because I mean, like I mean, people say that THU is expensive. Fair enough. If you break it down, it's about €100 a night, which I don't think is ridiculous. But they now have a system where if you've been to more than 2 events, you then get an automatic discount. I think it goes from €600 to 450, which is a huge discount. And then obviously, so the more you're going every year, then obviously the
it's way
less and
better,
less
of
you're going to be
course.
paying. I
Yeah.
think the cheap. Yeah, of course. So I mean, I think I would hope actually Initial Workshops and the other guys might introduce a similar system. But what people also have to remember, and I'm talking specifically about Daniel and his team at Initial Workshops, because I have spoke to Daniel about this, but they put out the money and the tickets and then organize. They spend a whole year organizing it. They get all the talkers across from all the different parts of the world. They set up the venue, all the desks and the lighting, and all the work they do during the weekend to set all that up. They make no money off these events. A lot
Yeah,
of the
because
guys who run these events
mostly all
are
the
doing it.
times all that money goes into the place itself, to everything needed.
Yeah, and paying for people to come across, plane tickets, hotel rooms. Um, yeah, like it's a fit of passion. Like, people are doing it purely because they love the industry
Yeah,
and they want
I was
people to
trying to make
learn.
some
It's
numbers,
not
in my head when I was at Barcelona, and
yeah,
I got to the conclusion that probably not all the money, but probably almost all the money they got from the tickets they made there
uh-huh.
goes into probably renting that place in a center of Barcelona,
Oh yeah,
and it could be the
yeah,
same to any other event. And
yeah,
it's really
definitely.
cool,
Especially with the yeah,
because this is a nice mindset. That's a nice philosophy and a nice way to try and make something for the world out there, so many people can
yeah.
learn.
Yeah, I mean, like, definitely. I know Daniel and his team sacrifice a lot to make that event happen every year, um, and they do it purely for just the love of it. Because they're not getting paid for working all weekend, and even with Daniel, he'll not get to really sit and
Yeah,
watch the talks. He'll be
but
running about with his team,
they do it,
organizing
and they
stuff.
know they get way more from it, than what they give, that
Yeah,
what it costs them. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about the effort they
yeah,
put in, their time and all that. And then what they get from it maybe may not be money, but man, the human factor they got from it. Holy shit, that's insane. I mean, I felt this way when I went to all these events. Like, spending all that money to stay there, to pay for the event and all that, it felt like super
yeah,
well paid. I would pay it again, and
yeah,
I got so much from it. Like, a lot of contacts, a lot of motivation, inspiration, things I never knew before, and plus you get to travel.
yeah. This is true. You get to see
Exactly.
other parts of the world, and it's awesome. So yeah, man. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap it here because we're approaching the 50-minute mark, and I wanted to keep it shortish anyway. But this has been a kind of an experiment. So thanks to Adrian for coming on and
It's been
speaking
an
to me.
honor.
You'll hear more of him in the coming months, hopefully a lot more. He already has, or hopefully has an interview lined up, his first one. So stay tuned for that, definitely. Um, Make sure to check out the podcast on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud. I'm going to try and work just now to promote it more and try and get it on things like Spotify as well, and just try and get the podcast out there. We're only 20 subscribers away from 1,000. I would love if you guys could help share the podcast and let people know that
Subscribe.
we're here and we're going to put more episodes out. Subscribe. I hate to sound like a broken record or
Yeah,
like a
I know.
YouTuber, like
You
press
have to
the
promote
subscribe button.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, man, totally. I feel dirty sometimes. And also, I need to talk more about this with Adrian, but we do have plans to try and maybe start a Patreon for the podcast. If you guys want to find out more about that, just stay tuned again. We'll maybe have another video discussing that. But the idea is that the podcast would still be free. You can still watch it on YouTube for nothing. I wouldn't monetize the videos, and same with iTunes. There's no payment plan. But if you wanted to help us out and you wanted to support the podcast, there is an option to do that. It isn't mandatory. Just to help with things like covering costs for hosting, for recording, Yeah, because we don't do this for free either, but yeah, it would be nice if we got some form of support, but again, it is totally optional. So more of that to come in the next couple of episodes. But yeah, check down the links below. I'll put Adrian's links in. I'll put a link to the Firestarter magazine and anything else we can find. And yeah, hopefully that'll keep us to the next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Adrian.
Pleasure.
And yeah, man. And we'll speak again soon. Bye, guys.